So we're looking at this phenomenon here at the center here, this light, bright colored blob that appears from several angles. We'll be examining this phenomenon from two main angles. The first is the one you're seeing now, and there will be another one. As I do this introduction, we'll be getting acquainted with it, with these two angles at regular speed, at slow speed, as you're seeing now. I'm gonna crop into the specific spot where the phenomenon is taking place shortly. We'll be looking at that in slow speed and in regular speed, regular then slow, and we'll do the same treatment for the other angle again as I do this introduction and as we do some basic deductions. So the two main questions we're asking are: A, is this an explosion or not? And B, if it is an explosion, is it some sort of naturalistic event that just happened to occur, happenstance, or was this more likely to be a preset explosive device? Eventually, I'll argue that it is far more likely than not to be the latter, and that we can deduce this with some very basic, straightforward reasoning. So, getting started, the first question, explosion or not an explosion, the not explosion possibility splits into three main branches, I would say. The first being, so this is the second angle, by the way, that we're going to look at the same way we looked at the first. So, coming back to the explosion or not explosion question, the not explosion possibility splits into three main possibilities. Fakery, i.e. this was added later on by some, conspiracy theorist, wannabe, who knows, but bottom line, fake, added, CGI. Or is the second possibility is that it's a video artifact. Third possibility is that it's a reflection. A window breaking, reflecting the sunlight, piece of paper falling down, again reflecting the sunlight or some other light source. Anything bright happening to catch the light at just the right time to appear as it does. So, the first possibility, the video artifact, the fakery possibility, we can deduce that to be a non-starter, simply because this footage is very well authenticated news footage. I could find nobody saying that this is, fake news, other than people. The closest thing is people who claim that all 9/11 footage is fake and CGI, which is obviously untenable position. If I need to explain to you why that is, then we're unlikely to come to common ground. Anyway, there's way too many angles. This technology was highly unlikely to be there to do this kind of detail from that many angles, so many witnesses. That's ridiculous. So anyway, most likely to be real, far more likely than not. Exceedingly unlikely to be a video artifact, since again it was caught from multiple angles. We're looking at two. There are others. We're just not going to be looking at them because again, they're not as detailed. These are the most detailed angles that I could find, but we do see the flash in other videos as well, this particular flash. So yeah, just the angle thing alone, the fact that it comes from many angles, is highly unlikely that professional camera equipment, recording equipment would, have the same glitch at the same time with nothing physical there. Just happenstance. Again, exceedingly unlikely. As far as the reflection possibility is concerned, we'll be using three main arguments here to rule that one out. Those arguments can be applied, some of them can be applied to some of the previous possibilities we ruled out, just as future arguments can be applied here as well, but the three that we'll be using should be more than enough to show just how improbable this reflection possibility is. So those arguments are the size of the flash, the shape of the flash, and the debris cloud that is quite clearly left by the flash. So the size, these are two of the tallest buildings in the world for quite some time. Certainly not toothpicks. They're quite wide as well. Don't have the exact footage in front of me, but they're certainly not, again, toothpicks. As we can see here, the dimension of this flash phenomenon versus the dimension of the building tells us that it's a sizable phenomenon. In order for this to be a reflection of some sort, the thing that is catching the light has to be quite large. Further complicating things or adding to the improbability is the fact that this is a corner, didn't have windows, as we can already see, and other angles will show us. So it's unlikely to be some sort of localized piece of debris, and also it's quite a bit larger than a window is likely to account for, to say nothing of a falling piece of paper. Moreover, falling debris, especially something large enough to account for something like this, it's highly unlikely that that something would leave no trace as it falls. It would just show up in that spot and then no trace of it before or after. And as we explore this angle and the other angle in more detail, we'll see what you probably already have noticed, that there's no discernible falling object that would help account for this phenomenon. So that's the size of it question. The shape of it is, as you can see, quite elongated, jet-like, tube-like, which is consistent with something bursting its way, pushing its way through the concrete, pressure, heat, busting its way out. It's inconsistent with a reflection. There's no particularly good reason why a reflection should have this shape. So that already tells us that, again, this is unlikely to be a reflection. Moreover, it's kind of a side argument is that it's happening on the shady side of the building, though it could be said that it's close to the corner and could have caught the light. And then the third argument, and I think the strongest yet, is the debris field that is quite clearly left by this phenomenon, mirrors the shape of the phenomenon. So as we look at it from different angles, from this angle we can see the jet-like shape. From the second angle that we'll look at now, we can still tell that it's a three-dimensional phenomenon, but the jet-like shape isn't accentuated by that phenomenon. And the interesting thing about the debris field is that not only does it coincide perfectly with the timing and the locale of the flash, but it also, from different angles, so from this angle it's going to look more like a jet, and from the other angle it's going to mirror the shape that we see there. So let's have a look. So here we are. This is our close-up of that corner of WTC2 before the flash appears. As we can see, there's some pixelation, but it's quite a smooth highlight, this corner. Then we see the flash go off. As I mentioned earlier, we see the three-dimensionality of it. We don't see the jet shape from this angle because we're just peeking out from around the corner, as opposed to the other angle where we see both sides of this corner quite clearly. But once this flash appears, then there's a distinct triangular shape here that mirrors or is very consistent with the shape of the flash that we see. So before the flash goes off, there's nothing, flash, and then in that exact spot we see that triangular debris cloud. Now the next frame over, as we would expect if this were a debris cloud, especially from an explosion, it's going to spread out a little. There. So it's coming forward and spreading out. Then the next frame over, it's going to lose the triangle shape and gain a more circular shape, but the highlight in the center will still be discernible. So it's still quite clearly that same cloud of debris changing shape as one would expect, from the laws of physics. So now it's circular, spreading out a little more, changing shape, but still discernible. Then it changes shape again, but is again quite, like we see that the tail of it moving up, but the circle itself, the nucleus of it, stays consistent. More, it's discernible from the rest of the debris around it. Then it moves downward, still discernible, moves downward some more, moves, then dissipates a little more, puffs out a little more, puffs out a little more, puffs out a little more as it moves downward a little more, with each frame moves down, and finally is dissipating to a point where we almost can't discern that epicenter of it from the rest of the debris. Although, until it it dissipates altogether. So this is a lot of consistency over many frames, and the most important part is that it appears in the exact same spot at the exact same time as the flash goes off, and as we just covered, follows the laws of physics over multiple frames, and is discernible again from the rest of the debris around it. So again, very consistent with an explosion, with pressure and heat busting through the concrete and following a certain trajectory and the laws of physics thereafter. Not consistent. Takes a lot of special pleading to say that this is just a coinkydink, and that the flash was a reflection, and this debris cloud just happened to show up at the exact same time in the exact same spot. So now we're going to, just to make sure that I'm not pulling any frame by frame trickery on you, we're going to look at it as we did before with all this information in mind in a few times in real time. So as we look at this real-time footage, we can clearly see that the debris cloud in question is A, indeed a debris cloud and not some sort of artifact or anything like that, and B, that it's directly associated with that flash, that this is exceedingly unlikely to be some sort of coincidence, with the flash just being a reflection. What we should also be able to see, however, is that the debris clouds directly above and directly below are also quite clearly share that causal link with the flash. So as the debris cloud in the center shoots out, at the exact same time, the debris clouds directly above and directly below shoot out as well. So they shoot out at the same time, they're symmetrical, they're about the same distance above the flash for this cloud as the second cloud is below the flash. So there's a symmetry there. They shoot out as far as each other, and then as they shoot out, they kind of curl into each other this way. All what we would expect from debris shooting out as a result of an explosion. And now let's have a look in real time with this information in mind as well. So again, there's a clear causal relationship here, and the fact that this debris cloud separates into three parts and is so large tells us that, moreover, that this is not just an explosion but a powerful explosion at that. So as you might expect, it's very much the same story here. There's nothing indicating to us that the corner is damaged, just some pixelation, nothing beyond that. Then we get our flash, which has we missed it. There's our flash. So it's different shape, as we've already established. The angle of view is very different here as well, so that's no surprise. Here we're seeing both sides of the building, here and here, whereas in the other angle we're just seeing this side of the building, just peeking around the corner from this side. So it's no surprise that we're seeing a different shape here, but the flash is in the exact same spot as you saw in the wide angle footage, and it's followed by debris which mirrors that shape. So there's that, it's in the exact same spot, shows up in the very next frame over, and mirrors the shape and follows a certain trajectory. So here it expands and moves forward a little, it expands a little further, shoots out a little further, is beginning to be joined by a secondary debris cloud that's shooting out in that horn-like shape that we noticed from the previous angle. So again, let's start over. Flash, jet-like flash, jet-like debris moves forward, spreads out and moves forward some more, is joined by a secondary ejection of debris, and has that horn-like shape, and then dissipates, moves downward, and the building comes down. The top part of the building descends into the bottom part. So again, let's have a look at all this in real time a few times and in quarter speed a few times, just to make sure. So that synchronicity with which those debris clouds are being ejected as the flash goes off should be particularly clear in the real-time footage. What looks like a gap when we go frame by frame is clearly a fraction of a second only. And both of the clouds are both of those horns are being ejected virtually at the same time, directly after the flash goes off. Again, it's established far beyond any reasonable doubt at this point to my mind that this is an explosion and not some sort of reflection and lucky debris ejections that just happen to make this look like an explosion. It is in fact an explosion. So as we look at a few repeats in slow motion, I'll intro the second question, which is, again, is this, now that we've established that this is most likely to be an explosion, the next question is what's the likelihood that this is a naturalistic explosion versus this being a preset explosive device?